Whoops.
RDTDaily.com presents a Tarabuster with comedian Tara Devlin.
Yo, yo, yo. What's up, my friends? This is Tara Devlin. How's it looking? How's it sounding? Sounds a little low in my headphones. All right, guys, thanks for being here. Guys. I see the chat room filling up at youtube.com/C for channel/Tarabuster. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm sorry I missed last week's show. It was the first time in many, many years that I had missed a show, so I really couldn't help it, and I apologize for that. I had a very bad migraine that wouldn't quit, and I've explained, if you know migraines, if you've had migraines, a lot of times people say, I have a migraine, and it's bullshit. But I've had migraines since I'm 11 years old, and they're not bullshit to me, because, I'm not exaggerating, let's put it that way. What happens is I can't see, so I get spots in front of my eyes. The blind spots in my eyes get very big, and I can't see. It's very bizarre, and for those who have those kind of migraines, you know what I'm talking about. It's hard to even explain. So I can't even look at a computer. I couldn't see. There would be no way I could do the show, and then it gets to a point where it gets very painful if I don't go sit in a dark room and just close my eyes. So just explaining why I couldn't do the show even if I wanted to last week. And I wanted to, because I hate missing a show. And I am a little bit, I feel like I have allergies tonight, but that won't stop me. And okay, so because we have a lot of work to do, and I want to thank you for being here and just sticking it out. That's what she said. And sticking it in. That's what she said. That's disgusting. Why am I saying that? I don't know. Just being silly. Guys, okay. Become a patron at patreon.com/Tara Devlin. I want to thank Charlie from APS Radio News for all he does, keeping the show going and growing and keeping me sane. Let's put it that way. And if you can, please check out Charlie's channel, APS Radio News. He has a few channels. One is a commentary news channel. I am also on that channel, APS Radio News. And then the music channel, APS Radio, which is great, classic rock and oldies all day, and classical music channel. So you can just put that on and, use it as the background music for your holidays too. Okay. I'm losing my voice already. Great. All right. So we have a lot of work to do. If you can become a patron, I already said that. Forget it. I'm trying to dive right into it instead of going around with the doing all the plugs. But please, there I go, doing another plug. Subscribe to my Substack. All right. That's all I'm going to say right now. And let's keep going. Let's just get into it. And Tarabuster Tuesdays. I'll try to weave the plugs throughout. That's what I'll try to do from now on. So it won't be as boring. Not boring, but people, I don't know, whatever. Everything's a work in progress. I'm learning as I go. So where do we begin? All right. The way I wrote it, because I write a lot of notes. Sometimes I take a lot of notes, for the show, because, it's not just winging it. I'm always preparing for the show. And I think, why do people want to tune into this show when they're hearing, it's not just about the news. I'm not just reporting the news. I guess, it's about the commentary and how, so I don't always have to stick to what everybody else is talking about. But I did want to point out the disgusting language that we're hearing. And I just can't, I don't want us to become numb to the fact that Trader Trump is a goddamn fascist. And it's very concerning what's going on with the language And it matters. That's why we have to push back. When that garbage person dares call an entire segment of humanity garbage, that's the Nazi rhetoric. That's the that's the precursor to a pogrom, basically. And we can't. It just can't be acceptable. So, and this is what, when the future looks back on this time, they're gonna, they're gonna judge us by how we stood up to this. But make no mistake, they will know exactly what's going on. And shame on everybody who went along with it, who thinks this is funny, who thinks this is keeping it real. See, that's one of the things I hear from maggots when I go and, I study them like Jane Goodall studied the apes. I study the chimpanzees. So sometimes I'll check out I'll check out their channels and see what they're saying. And it's really interesting, too, because and that's why I ask you to subscribe to my Substack, because, I am writing articles and doing some other videos over there on the Political Voices Network. And please, follow Political Voices as well, because we need all the help we can get as the independent liberal media. We only have each other. And I did a video the other day and I wrote an article about Megyn Kelly, how disgusting her language is about her. But it wasn't just about her braying for blood, right? She was saying that she wants she loves the blood. She loves the death of these boats being blown out of the water. And of course, they're going with the official story, which is bullshit, that they're drug traffickers. And even if they were, I should say, because they've been murdered, they're still entitled to due process, right? It's not about who they are. It's about who we are. And this is something that maggots don't ever seem to understand. And conservatives throughout history, too. They're so terrible, they're so evil, we must, what? We must behave like them? We must be them? But this is why you don't give conservatives power. Conservatism is the ideology, of course, of, it's a minority ideology. It doesn't... And I put it to you guys again. Tell me, maybe I have missed this in my studies and travels and whatnot. Name a conservative country where people are happy, where people are healthy, happy, free, where the majority, if they had a choice, says, yeah, more of that, please. Because you can't. Every conservative country, every country that is under the boot of conservatism is one of the shithole countries. But where, the rich are getting, they get along just fine. It's all for the rich and everybody else fighting for the scraps. That's conservatism in a nutshell. And this is what they're doing to this country, dragging us back. And they're doing it just like the Nazis did it as well, with language, with propaganda, under the veneer of legal legitimacy. And we should be really concerned about, right before I came on the air, I saw that there was a court that, this conservative court, a recent ruling determined that Trader Trump, the baboon, has the authority to fire federal employees from independent agencies. This is unbelievable. I'm not a constitutional scholar, but I do know there's supposed to be separation of powers. And that what is the point of having three co-equal branches of government and having independent agencies if that are funded by Congress, by the way, if the executive can just go in there and rearrange things at his whim or willy-nilly because somebody upsets him. This sounds more like the system the founders fought a revolution to overthrow than it does the one that, patriots, actual patriots fought, bled, and died to create and entrust to us. So, this court, where is it? I wrote it down over here. Well, it's on my screen here. Yes, he could fire federal employees from independent agencies, specifically members of the National Labor Relations Board. Of course, right? Because, you have to be able to put your boot on the worker, on the neck of the worker in a fascist dictatorship. Hold on. Unbelievable. This is really upsetting to me. And of course, I'm sure you saw too that the corrupt and illegitimate Supreme Court has agreed to take the appeal that Trump, this is what they do, they appeal up to the Supreme Court knowing that the Supreme Court is corrupt and illegitimate, but to take up this birthright citizenship, his challenge to birthright citizenship through executive order. What is the purpose, the point of having a, this whole process of making a constitutional amendment? And that's what birthright citizenship is. If some baboon, especially, you think about how in the past century, in the past 100 years, the Republicans have sat in the Oval Office, have stained the Oval Office with illegitimate minority power. Thanks to the what do you call it? The Electoral College, and of course gerrymandering, and these Republicans, the Republicans in power in the Senate, it is really the tyranny of the minority. They represent fewer people. They have a minority point of view that the majority, even the maggots, don't want, as we see. Because, this is what is so sinister about the maggots, about the Republicans in general, is that they don't run on these policies. They run away from the policies. They run on liberal policies, on progressive policies. Everyone's going to get health care. It's going to be great. It's going to be the best. It's not going to cost anybody anything. We're going to lower the price of everything. You're going to earn a living wage. Everyone's going to be rich and wonderful. And, they're so full of shit. They don't run on this, right? They don't run on Project 2025. They run away from Project 2025. And to the point where he's like, I don't even know. What is Project 2020? What is Project 25? He said, right? Because they're all full of shit. They didn't run on this. They didn't run on firing federal workers, destroying. They ran on. They said, it was all laid out in Project 2025. They talk about drowning government in a bathtub, of course. But, of course, everyone thinks, these maggots who vote for this monstrosity, they all think, I'm not waste, fraud, and abuse, right? It's you. It's somebody else. They're talking about brown people. That's really what it is. They think, it's not my food stamps that are going to be cut. It's those lazy brown people who don't deserve it. I deserve it. That's how they feel. That's how they think. They all think that way. If you go into the red states, these poorly run red states, they're all on some kind of public assistance, and they think, hey, they earned it. It's just somebody else taking advantage, right? And so, that's why they're sinister, the Republicans in power, because they don't run on the things that they do. Once they trick people to vote, they tickle the racist funny bones, and this is why I'm sick of people who vote for them. Shame on you for voting Republican, unless you want You want your, I mean, there are some maggots, of course, that really do want the American people to suffer under the boot of fascism, of course. And hey, at least in other systems, like in the parliamentary system in Italy and all over the world, they identify themselves. They run as fascist, and that's one thing I have to say about Nick Fuentes. He's open about it, who he is. On some level, okay, you got to respect that. He says, hey, this is who I am. We will have one more election, and then that'll be it. We won't have any more elections, and we'll make Trump king. Okay, at least he's honest about it, so we know what we're dealing with. The rest of the Republican Party, the Mike Johnsons, the Thunes, the everyone else, I guess except for Perjury Trader Green at this point, because she's seen the light because it affected her. But they're not running on this. Do you think that if? And I know, all right, let me get my thoughts together because I'm thinking about a million things. And this is the way it is now, right? That's why people are exhausted. And this is what fascism is. It's a constant fire hose of destruction, and you don't know where to turn. But here's the thing. You gotta respond to all of it. Really, you can't leave anything on the table. Because, and that's why I'm sick of the Democrats, too, tell you the truth. And we talk about it on the show. Yeah, I mean, I'm voting Democratic, of course. But the Democrats have got to respond to all of this. They can't, you can't leave anything to the, to maggots to fill in the blanks, Because one of the things, what I was talking about, when I wrote that article on the Political Voices Substack, so please, subscribe to my Substack, and it was about Megyn Kelly, and because as I was doing research about this Megyn Kelly, she's horrible, of course, a horrible person there, and she's braying for blood. She wants to see limbs and bleeding, and she wants pain and suffering. And that to them is tough. But while I was researching this, I came across another video that she had put out about what do you call it? Where she was reacting to Lawrence O'Donnell. I'm trying to find it here. Actually, I mean, I hope you subscribe to my Substack, but I guess we'll just, since I'm talking about it, let's play it. I did a whole video about it on the Substack, so if you have seen that already, forgive me. Well, that's Trader Trump getting a fake peace prize, participation peace prize. That's on the list too. We'll see if we get to it. But wait, I have to open this. Where is it? Boom, beam, boom. So many buttons to press. Okay, here we go. So this is, she put this short out. It's supposedly to, what do you call it? Debunk. It's a reaction video to something that Lawrence O'Donnell said on his show.
Lawrence O'Donnell picking up on Kathleen Sebelius, talking about how, people will die, whatever. Here's, take a listen to him.
The most important thing to know about Robert Kennedy Jr. is that there are probably people dead tonight because of him. Thousands of people who followed his medical advice on vaccines in the middle of a deadly pandemic. At least Matt Gaetz didn't kill anyone.
Isn't that funny, Megan?
Got it. He's a killer because he questioned Fauci and the conventional wisdom about vaccines. We've seen this in so many articles since Trump named Bobby Kennedy that he's dangerous and he killed people because he had skepticism about vaccines. Meanwhile, none of these same so-called journalists or newspapers will acknowledge the myocarditis caused by those vaccines in young men, 15, 16-year-old men, across the country and beyond.
See, hold on a second. Here's the music. Listen. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, this is Tara Devlin. Guys, okay, so you heard what she said. Myocarditis. And then she threw out the scare word Fauci, because that gets them going. Because Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was skeptical. That's how they put it. Skeptical of Fauci. And Fauci gets them, Fauci, give me that Fauci. I mean, and Fauci, Dr. Fauci is an American hero. And this is because we live in bizarro world now, that people who actually benefit the American people are vilified and attacked and it's like a thankless job. And I'll get to that too, how the maggots have been, since Reagan, they've been successful in turning the American people against government, and trust in government has plummeted to historic lows. And it's a propaganda campaign that's gone on for, since Reagan told us that the 9 most terrifying words are from the government, and I'm here to help. But the first thing maggots scream when something goes wrong, hey, where's my government helping me? But anyway, so you heard what she said, that it was vaccine. Lawrence O'Donnell was correct, okay? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a murderer, and every time Republicans, murderer, quote unquote, because every time Republicans get in office, people needlessly die. And that is a proven fact. We got the receipts. I will go through it. But she mentions myocarditis, how the COVID shot increases myocarditis in young men ages 16 to 30. And that's, she just throws that out there, and people go, yeah. That's, they're suppressing this. This is true. There's myocarditis. Okay, here's the truth. That as soon as I saw her and listened to this bullshit, I was like, something is not right here. Let me do my own research. And here's the truth. Yes. This is good propaganda always starts with a grain of truth, right? So, yes, myocarditis is a side effect of the COVID mRNA vaccine. They have noted cases of myocarditis after the vaccine in young men ages 16 to 30. Okay, but this is what she leaves out. The cases are, we're talking about 7 to 10 cases per 1 million doses. Okay? And on top of this, the other dirty, inconvenient truth she leaves out is that contracting COVID actually increases the risk of myocarditis in young men ages 16 to 30 several times more, several fold. So you have a worse, your risk of myocarditis is worse if you do not get the vaccine. If you listen to Megyn Kelly, your risk of myocarditis, if you're a young man 16 to 30, is worse. And the other thing she leaves out is that all of the cases of myocarditis that were reported from 7 to 10 cases per 1 million doses, all of these young men who had this happen as a result of the vaccine, they recovered from their myocarditis. No one died from it, but yet the contracting COVID could actually not only increase your risk of myocarditis, it can also increase your risk of other more deadly heart illnesses, including death. So this is what I mean with Republicans and Megyn Kelly and all the other right-wingers who do nothing They add nothing to the conversation but hate and division. And this is what she did right here. You know, if she really cared about young men ages 16 to 30, she would not spread such a devious lie. You know? She wouldn't twist the facts. She wouldn't leave out important context. Right? Because she's hurting people. She's hurting the people she is whose health she's using as an exemplar or example of of why you shouldn't get the vaccine. Like, you got to be why you should be skeptical, as she says. This is skepticism. It's do your own research crowd who don't do their own research at all. And so they malinform each other, and they hurt other people by doing that. And that's why every time Republicans get in power, the death rate goes up. The needless death rate goes up in this country. So, Republicans wouldn't pull a hair for America, right? So it's not just me talking here. This is not just me making shit up. I don't just make shit up like Megyn Kelly. Several large studies find that the overall death rate falls faster in Democratic-leaning counties than in Republican-leaning counties. And this is going back 2 decades. There's nothing new here. There's a sizable gap between the mortality rate in Democratic areas and Republican areas. It also, the difference is, if you factor in age, race, income, all of that, it's the differences remain. The gap remains. So this means that it's about policy. It's not about demographic. So if you see what I'm saying? It's about policy, health behaviors, environment, that Republicans don't give a shit if you live in a cesspool. If a corporation can make a buck turning your poorly run red state into a toilet for their corporate waste, that's what they're gonna do. You can't deregulate. Yeah, that's deregulation. Who needs a regulation? Oh, that's so burdensome. I can't talk. I can't say that word. Burdensome. Right? It's absolutely unbelievable. Yeah. Oh, so good. Thank you, Redfoot. For booting a maggot that contributed nothing to the conversation. Yes, we don't need that. There's plenty of places for them to go. They don't need... I like them to come here because then they would learn something, maybe. That's true. And Twisted Nerves Painting says it probably goes back further if you had the info to compare. That's true. As far as the... I would imagine it goes back to Reagan. When Reagan started trickling or urinating on us and telling us it was trickling, that's where we can trace the decline of the American middle class, the American worker, the American experiment. Really, they started with the whole "I hate government, government sucks, government, this, that, government is the problem, drown government, hate government." And the fact is, we're government. That's what should be taught. Look at us. Aren't we lucky? We're the beneficiaries of patriots, progressive patriots who fought, bled, and died to overthrow a king and an aristocracy so we can rule ourselves. So we have a duty to do that, and this is what we do. Because we love our country. We want to pay that debt back, the debt to the founders and all the patriots in their cold early graves. So you don't And that's what the Democrats should have always fought back when these maggots who were teabaggers, who were, Dixiecrats back in the day, who were whatever they were calling themselves, Goldwater Republicans, they should have fought back and said, well, but instead, of course, because because Democrats are always more worried about what Republicans think of them than what their own base thinks. But, they should have fought back and said, we're for government. Because human beings are interdependent creatures. We need each other. We live in communities. And we have to get along, so we form governments, which are just bodies that we all get together and divvy up, the taxes in equitable manners, so we can, invest in the future and each other. Jesus Christ, how hard is that? And the Democrats should have constantly stood up for government. Yeah, okay, you think government sucks? Well, fuck off to a desert island then. Leave us alone. Right? You don't want to play in the reindeer games? Then bugger off, bud. Go to Epstein Island. Go to, at this point we should be calling it Trump Island. Right? It's like the government is what the founders fought, bled, and died to create and entrust to us. And that's how the Democrats should have been fighting back. Oh, so you hate America. Because that's what Republicans are saying, and we know that. They don't hate government. They like government. They like a big, big, big government on your neck government. In your bedroom, in your thoughts, in your speech. In what you read, what you see, what you do, in your pronouns, right? They want a government in your pee-pee. But, that's freedom. They don't like freedom. They hate freedom. They like authoritarian government, fascist government. They don't like democracy, and that is how the Democrats should have used, and I wish they would listen to me. Will they ever listen to me, guys? Please, Democrats, because you got to judo this shit. You got to take these Republican talking points and turn it around on them. So when they say things like government sucks, small government, but the American people immediately think the truth, that no, they're not talking about government. They're talking about democracy. They're talking about America. They're talking about freedom. When they say they hate government, what they're saying is they hate democracy. Because they want a big-ass government up your wazoo, telling you who you are, who you can be, what constraints you can live in, what subjects you could study, for God's sakes. I'm so tired of the fecklessness of Democrats, and that's it does. Yeah, you got to say, like, I went out to lunch today with some normal progressive people, of course, friends, and who are part of the Political Voices Network, in the channel and all, and we were discussing this, and I was just saying, I wish the Democrats they have to respond to everything. And, George from PVN was saying how that's very hard to do when it's the fire hose of news. It's not just news, but the fire hose of offenses everywhere. And that's true. But you got to try. You have to. The answer isn't silence, for Christ's sakes, right? When, for example, when Pam Bondi was being, had her burn book when she was in front of the Senate, and she was so disgustingly disrespectful to and this is what what the Democrats should have said to her. You're not disrespecting us. Miss Bondi, you're disrespecting the American people, because we were duly elected by our constituents, by the people in our states, to represent them in the halls of power. And your disgusting behavior speaks volumes about how how much you really don't represent all of the American people. And you should be ashamed of yourself. That's one thing they should have said. But when she says, because there was a point where she was saying that one of them, Mazie Hirono, was out there with Antifa, that she was out on protesting with Antifa, and they just went silent. They just kept asking the questions, but they didn't respond to any of her antics, of course. But when they say things like, "Oh, and why were you out there with Antifa, protesting with Antifa?" The fact is, Antifa is not a thing, and they keep trying to make it a thing. And when Mazie Hirono doesn't say Antifa is an idea, it's not an organization, and simply then you go on to your question, the American people are not going to know. They're going to think, a lot of the American people, they're not like us. They're not involved, or they're not watching Political Voices Network. They're not engaged. So they're going to think, oh, well, what's this Antifa? She was out there protesting with this Antifa thing. And, you can't just think or leave it up to them. You have to respond. You have to correct the record, for Christ's sakes. Oh, God. Am I wrong here? No, I'm not wrong. I'm just talking out loud. But that's what you do when you're on a podcast. Right? I mean, am I wrong? You got to. It's the same thing. And I've said this before with when Harris was being interviewed by Brett Baer, if you want to call it an interview. He was being very disrespectful, of course, in ways that he would never speak to that baboon like that sleepy baboon. And he said to Harris, and she was the sitting vice president, so but she's a female, and she's also a person of color, so that's what Fox News wants. They want complete obsequiousness to an unfit disgrace to America, tax cheating, draft dodging, wannabe dictator, con man with a fake university, a convicted felon who's all over the Epstein files. They want to see complete obsequious supplicant, whatever. I can't think of another word. They want to see that. They want to see genuflecting to this monstrosity. But as for the sitting vice president, who the majority of the American people voted for, they get treated to tirades, to this bullying. And so anyway, but she has to sit there and act like, you can't show any anger. You can't show. But what he said to her was, what do you think? He said half the American people support Trump. This was during the campaign. Are you calling them stupid? Do you think they're stupid or something like that? And she said, no, I would never call the American people stupid. Why not? Why the fuck not? Excuse my language. What she should have said was, I'm not calling them stupid. I am calling them misinformed. And yeah, they're misinformed by this network, by Fox News, fake Fox News, where studies show make its viewers less informed than people who watch no news at all. Brett. So, and you just had to pay. You were hit with the largest fine against a media company, a largest judgment in American history for lying to your viewers about the election. So yeah, I don't call them stupid. I call them misinformed. And I think a large problem in the country is media, is the right-wing media that lies to them. I mean, look at the media now. Look at these right-wingers, literally funded by the Kremlin. Traitors. Every time, the mainstream media talks about them or brings them up, they should bring that up. These are people that have taken money from the Kremlin. They're traitors. Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, traitors. And the Pentagon, for example, the ones who left, the legitimate, whatever, I think Fox News actually left there. That's one good thing. But there's the ones that are left behind. What is this? Now we got a trust me, bro, kind of press corps? Yeah, trust me. It's all good. No harm, no foul. Yeah, you got to trust me on this. This is not America. It's not America. Just like the language of the baboon calling Somalis garbage, that's not America either. But we have had to endure this from the right wingers, from Traitor Trump dragging us down into the sewer with him, and we shouldn't be okay with it. Shame on them. And that's why it's so disappointing. The media has really failed us. We're here because of media. I will that's the hill I'm on. I'm not going to die on it, but because I'm not going to die on, because I'm wrong. I'm not wrong, but I will die eventually, but not on that hill. It's the truth. Propaganda works. That's why Trump, from the beginning, from the minute he came down the escalator, he started with the devaluing the currency of truth. And he even admitted that to, I think, Leslie Stahl, right? He told her that he says it so people won't believe the press. And what really is so irritating about the maggots, because they're so suspicious, right, about everything else, but they don't see that doesn't make them suspicious, right? The oldest tricks in the book, the fake news, the Lügenpresse, as Hitler in the original German used to call it. You would think that people who are supposed to be patriots, who are so, attuned to conspiracies, you would think that they would have spotted that from a mile away, but they didn't, because they're racist. That's the bottom line. He hates the same people they do. Okay? It's a shame. And he hooks them. He tickles those racist funny bones. He gets them right by their filthy fascist racist failings, and they should be ashamed, really. But it's all by design of Republican policies. That's why they go after the Department of Education. It's a sinister plot against this country. We have never been so under assault from within, I believe, since the Civil War. And they've gotten further. They've done so much damage, so much more damage. And, everything. And just the fact that the corporate media, when I'm thinking about, the MSNBC, what are they, MS Now and CNN, normalizing this. Even not all of them, not the Rachel Maddows and some of the commentary shows like Nicole Wallace and all that. They're not normalizing this, but this, I don't know. Just even if you just report on it as if it's normal, it normalizes it. It should all be put in context. Now, this is not normal. This is not American. This is disgusting. Well, to call, Traitor Trump calling Somalis garbage, railing against Somali immigrants, for those who missed it, calling them garbage, saying he doesn't want them in the United States, they should go back and fix the places they come from. And when he does that, what's his face? That's disgusting. The least popular vice president in American history started banging the table. I mean, I was like, here, you fucking baboon, here. Shame on you. Shame on these people. And we all watched the clips, I'm sure, of Trader Trump at the, sleeping. He very sleepy in the cabinet meeting. I mean, what a disgrace. Clearly he's not fit. We knew that. But he's got dementia. It's creeping up on him. He can't stop falling asleep at the cabinet meeting. And even while they're talking right to him, kissing his ass. It's incredible. And there's, what's his name? Marco Rubio sitting right next to him and saying, I mean, and as every time I watch him, I'm like, this is the guy that was running when he was running for president, Marco Rubio. He released, what do you call it? He wasn't just on all the shows he would go on, and he would do ads calling Trump a con man, telling the truth about Trump. He's a con man, he's a grifter. A con man and grifter will never be the leader of the Republican Party. And then he's sitting there licking his ass. This sleepy effing mob boss, this criminal, this man-child, and, this wannabe dictator piece of shit who's Putin's bitch every day and twice on Sunday. And he's sitting there going, oh, this never would have happened. This war wouldn't have happened if you were here. I mean, everything that Trump says that is a lie, that he knows is a lie. And you got to know that this guy must know. He's got to see the even worse of what Trump is. He knows what Trump is. My God, do you have any dignity? Do you have any dignity? Any of them? And I don't know what it is. When you think about Marco Rubio, he wants to be Secretary of State. Of course, he is Secretary of State, and he ran for president. He wanted to be president. Secretary of State is a very prestigious position. So I guess, that's his ambition. And you could say that in the first maladministration, a lot of the people that, were in his maladministration stopped him from carrying out his worst impulses. And maybe I would say, if you wanted to be generous, you could say that Marco Rubio, he's there to stop Trump from carrying out his worst impulses. But you can't deny the fact that you don't have to be a disgusting lickspittle to do that, do you? Maybe you do now. You think if you had any dignity left, you wouldn't have to sit there and blow smoke up this baboon's ass. He even, I'm sure you saw the clip, and I wish I had it handy, when Trader Trump ran, well, he didn't run because he lumbers and he can't walk a straight line, but he walked up the steps to Air Force One a couple of months ago, and he tripped, and he almost fell on his fat face. Oh, God, that would have been great. And I wish he fell flat and just went down and hit every step. That would have been, chef's kiss. But it didn't happen. And so Marco Rubio ran up the steps after him, and he tripped. It was so clear that he did it because his dear leader tripped. So he tripped too. Oh, my Lord. What's wrong with these people? Really? What's wrong with them? There's a lot. Something's wrong with them. There really is something wrong with them. They're very sick and damaged people. And that's one of the things I wrote about in my article for the Political Voices Network about Megyn Kelly, they're sick and damaged. They all are. When you look at Pete Hegseth, they're all unfit. They know it. That's why they have to act like, like Pete Hegseth acts like he is acting out a war movie, a child playing at war, and he doesn't have any understanding. There's no depth there because he's a child and he doesn't have the wisdom of experience and any maturity. So it's all covered up with this fake bravado. And he's so unfit that he doesn't understand that we all see that it's so transparent that he looks like a weak little bitch. And, no offense to weak little bitches, because he's even worse. They don't get it. Because it's like, a bird has got to fly and a fish has got to swim. And they are just who they are. Unfit. They should not be anywhere near the halls of power. And when they get power, that's why it's all corruption. There's not an ounce of decency in the lot of them. But, that's why I have to constantly remind everyone, shame on the people who voted for it. Shame on them. So, Trump going off on Somali communities, and let's see, it's disgusting. So let's not ever forget, and this is what, why doesn't the corporate media, when they talk about this, and I have heard them say things about what he's been saying about the Somali community, why don't they point out that this is Nazi talk? This is disgusting and it shouldn't be tolerated. Hold on a second. Wait. Yeah, so it's really exhausting. And they're going after, of course, Ilhan Omar. That's one of their favorite attacks on Ilhan Omar because she's a female. She wears a hijab. It's very frightening to these masters of the universe. They're very terrified. They're not strong at all. Strong people are not terrified by diversity, right? And the other thing that Trump is doing, it's very Nazi to ascribe collective responsibility on an entire community. Hold on a second. And that's what he's doing, Yeah, so they're saying, like, Somalis are ripping off Minnesota for billions and billions every year. This is not true, of course. And they're going after Tim Walz. So, of course, this is an exaggeration, just like what Megyn Kelly did when in the video we played. It's, a little bit of truth and hang your propaganda around it and just use the little grain of truth, but don't add any context or details or any, anything that will actually support your claim. You're there to divide and conquer, basically. So what happened is federal prosecutors in Minnesota charged around several dozen people in a major welfare and food aid scheme, okay, including the COVID food programs. So in the largest of these cases, there were, I'm just looking at the details here, $300 million in federal child nutrition funds were stolen. That's not billions and billions every year. I don't care. Trump likes to say that. Billions and billions and trillions and trillions. Meanwhile, he is a fraudster. He has You want to talk about $240 to $300 million in fraud? That is chump change in the amount of fraud that Trader Trump has committed against this country. That's for sure, and I'll get to that in a minute. So let's see. A significant share of those charged are of Somali or Eastern African background, but many others are not. And the most Somali Minnesotans, of course, had nothing to do with these crimes. So he's just collectively, it's like the eternal Jew. This is a Nazi tactic. This is who they are. This is who. What have I said ever that's been false? And every Republican chest beats the heart of fascism. This is it. Here we are. We're seeing it again. They can't help it. This is who they are. So Trump claims that they have defrauded the state of billions. Of course, this is bullshit. He's turning this specific set of fraud cases into a blanket accusation against an entire community, an entire people. It's disgusting. So the fraud is it's not insignificant, but it's not recurring, of course, billions and billions of years. But this is what he does. He inflates the numbers to, so we can attack the minority group du jour. And it's, even better that a Democrat is the governor of the state. So they can attack Tim Walz because he's, like Trader Trump just pardoned this narco, the president of Honduras that was in jail for importing tons of cocaine into the United States. He just pardoned the guy. But while he's murdering supposed drug people in a drug boat that doesn't look like the drug boat can get to the United States from Venezuela, right? And I don't know, drug boats, you usually have drug boats with 11 people on a drug boat? We just got to take their word for it because dead men tell no tales, of course, right? These scums, these filthy, it's so disgusting what they have done to this country. We have so much work to do to get this country back morally, ethically, spiritually, in every way. So, Walz is not personally, of course, responsible for running these programs. He's the governor. So Trader Trump said he pardoned the narco, Honduras. What's the guy's name? I'm looking it up. Trump pardoned the drug lord. It's incredible. Well, because he was told by his billionaire friends that, pardon him. He has pardoned over 1,500 people. So, and I don't know if that's including the January 6th terrorists. There's never been a more corrupt administration. What's his name? Juan Orlando Hernandez. Trader Trump has pardoned or given clemency to major drug traffickers, including former foreign president tied to hundreds of tons of cocaine. Oh my God. It's not the first drug lord that Trader Trump has pardoned, Hernandez, the former president of Honduras. He also pardoned Ross Ulbricht, who was in charge of the Silk Road, or who ran that website, Silk Road. A complete pardon to Ross Ulbricht, the creator of Silk Road, the dark web marketplace built around illegal drug sales and money laundering. Oh my God. He was serving a life sentence for narcotics and related conspiracies. The judge at the sentencing of this Ulbricht character, the judge Trader Trump loves him. The judge explicitly likened him to one of the worst drug dealers because of the scale of his trade. He poisoned the entire earth, this piece of shit. So, yeah. During his first term, too. That's not the only one. I mean, so he pardons the bigwigs, the drug traffickers who do buku harm, major harm, buku death, more death, more destruction. During his first term, Trader Trump commuted the sentence of a New York weed kingpin, Jonathan Braun. Okay. He was a large-scale marijuana trafficker. That's fine. Whatever. These decisions certainly do kind of question your being tough on drugs. But, hey, hypocrisy is like the wind beneath the wings of the Republican Party. So, but he said about the Honduran president that, well, he's just the president. Just because he's the president doesn't mean he's involved in the crime that happens in the country. That's not no boo-boo, no baboon. That's not what anybody said. He's not. It's not that he's the president while there's crimes going on in his country. He was linked to the drug cartels. He was working in cahoots with the drug cartels, you filthy fascists. But that's what Republicans do. They lie. They count on the stupidity, on the dummies who vote for them. And, when I watch these right-wing channels or whatever, and I have, not all the time, but I do sometimes because of the show. I have to. And it's very fascinating to me because they lie. And I mean, I should do a whole reaction video to these videos, but hold on a second. This is Tara Devlin. But what I find interesting is that that's what it is. They continuously repeat the same lies, and it drives me crazy because it's like, it doesn't matter how many times, I try to correct it. And yeah, I guess maybe you could say, well, this is why Democrats don't even try. It doesn't matter. You gotta try. You gotta correct the record. You have to. Otherwise, we're doomed. What's the alternative? Just go quietly into that fascist dark night? No, thank you. So, of course, the Republicans are saying now the president of Honduras has, even though he was involved with the drug cartels, he's clear. He's in the clear now. But as far as Tim Walz, because he was governor when this fraud was going on, he takes full responsibility for the fraud. You see how, you got to have cognitive dissonance to be a Republican. Crimes only happen if someone has a D after their name. Because you better believe that if Tim Walz was a Republican, Trader Trump would say nothing about this fraud. He might bring up Somalis, but then he would say what a great job Walz is doing or was doing. But, they found the fraud. But the thing is, lots of fraud went on during the COVID era. Lots of Republicans, partook. And, they took COVID relief funds and all that. But the main argument is that the Republicans are going off on, and it doesn't matter. They don't even have to get into the details. They just have to whine and scream about Tim Walz and say, fraud and Somalis are garbage. And that's, it has the effect because it doesn't matter, it tickles those racist funny bones. And it gets the maggots frothing at the mouth, turning against the Democratic Party, which is the only party that is trying to make them actually free, trying to have give them or provide a government that works for more than just the 1%. And but they gotta turn the maggots against the Democrats. Tim Walz is a good guy. Something happened. He had, just like Trader Trump said about Khashoggi, right? Something happened. But he wasn't McGruff the crime dog. They found out what was happening. They found the fraud, but it wasn't fast enough, according to the Republicans, and that's why Tim Walz is terrible. But what about Trader Trump and the fraud? I mean, let's go through it. Let's see. Do I have my list here? It's incredible. The hypocrisy is, of course, to be expected with the Republicans. But let me see. I have all my notes. I should get... What time is it anyway? Okay, we still got time. We got 54 minutes. Which is... Wow. That's good, right? Let's see. All right. Blah, blah, blah. Where is it? Just hold on a second. You see, I'm all stuffed up. I thought I had my list here. I do have it somewhere, but it always gets buried. I gotta come up with a better system. So, let's see. Hold on. I'm all stuffed up. So, civil fraud judgment. Okay, so Trader Trump is a convicted felon, of course, but you want to talk about fraud. He is a con man. He's a lifelong con man. That's why I can't stand, the maggots who talk about him as, we've got a businessman. Like, you have to have a businessman in office. They always talk about how, government should be a business, and as if businessmen are the pinnacle of human existence. And, of course, that's bullshit. But, and Trader Trump is a goddamn convicted felon who was convicted of 34 counts of falsifying business records. And those business records have to do with scamming the people of New York out of tax money he owed them. Because he's a parasite. And he's the biggest parasite, the biggest loser parasite in American history. And I'm not just talking, I'm not just being hyperbolic. That is a demonstrable fact. Trader Trump lost more money. He declared more losses in his businesses, his great businesses, than every other single American taxpayer in the tax years that we have. So, what a great businessman. But add in that, what businesses was he running? He was running scams. His entire history of being alive as a useless waste of human DNA is a pattern of fraud and deception. That's his business model. The business model is cheating on his taxes. The business model is being a parasite. And coming up with scams to separate suckers from their money. He doesn't bring anything to the table. He's not an innovator. He's not anyone he doesn't have good ideas. He does things that other people did. He does scams that other people did better. And he does businesses that other people did better. What does he do? He cuts corners everywhere. He spits in the face of the people every time he can. He sucks on the government teat. And he complains about it. He's a cheat. Trump University hit with multiple fraud and false advertising lawsuits. Not just And it wasn't created as a legitimate business. Trump University, as the executives of Trump University testified when they were called before, onto the stand under oath when they were sued by the suckers dumb enough to sign up for the scam. They said that Trump University was created as a scam. And all that baboon did was put his stupid name on this scam university. Oh my God. It's so disgusting. And everything else, the multi-level marketing vitamin scam, the, what else? Just all the other bullshit. The books. He didn't even write his own damn books. The game, the shuttle, everything that other people did. He did it badly and failed. That's why he couldn't get a legitimate bank loan. More losses. That's all he did was declare more tax losses than every other American. Somebody has to be the biggest loser. And that was him. And I can't take it. Why? That's another thing that the Democrats should constantly harp on, right? Just say he's a loser. He declared more losses than every other single American taxpayer. That doesn't make him smart. That makes him a parasite. Call him a parasite, Democrats. Call him a convicted felon. You're not wrong. You're telling the truth about him. It's incredible. I don't understand. That's the other thing, why Chuck Schumer has to go, right? Because, that's the truth. That's the low-hanging fruit. You can't even muster that, Chuck Schumer, then you're not a leader. You can't, what is this shit? Marcus of Queensberry rules? Those days are over, honey. You gotta call him what he is. He's the so-called president, convicted felon, goddamn tax cheat who's all over the Epstein files. Oh, God. Sorry, I'm all stuffed up. I don't know why. All of a sudden. Well, not all of a sudden. It just gets to you sometimes, Yeah, let's see. In 1995 tax filings, he had a net loss of $916 million. Oh, you want to talk about fraud? Jesus Christ. You know what that means? That just means that he received a giant tax return. We just kept giving him millions of dollars. That makes him smart, though. No, it makes him a grifter. And that's why, he's not smart. He's just evil. Really. We don't think of doing things like that, you and I, because we're not evil. We're good. Right? He's not good. He's evil. He's small. God. You can't take it with you. He's almost 80 years old. He's got cankles like a goddamn inner tube. I don't know what he is. I don't know what's sloshing around in those cankles. And he falls asleep everywhere now. That's something wrong with the brain when that happens. You realize that, right? He's got Alzheimer's. His mother had it. Oh, brother. Where was I? Let's see. I'm looking at the time. So, okay. We'll go to how Bobby Kennedy is killing Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is killing more people, more Americans. And by the time, and that's what's so evil about him and them, that when he's not in this position anymore, he's gonna kill. The decisions they've made now will keep killing, kill. They love killing, especially Americans. That's the Republicans. So, because what happened is they just released this bullshit panel that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is on. Just said that they undid the recommendation. They're no longer recommending the hepatitis B shot for infants. And now that will ensure that there'll be more, disease. This anti-vax crusade this hepatitis B vaccine has prevented, this is, the stats, 90,000 newborn deaths prevented. Now they'll, where the infant mortality rate's going to go up. The hepatitis B birth dose program is estimated to have prevented at least 90,000 childhood deaths in the U.S. And now this joke, this sociopath, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., his remade vaccine panel of kooks and freaks has rolled back this universal newborn protection program in ways that, of course, the leading medical groups are warning will endanger children and erode just basic trust in vaccines. So what happened? This adversary, what is this? Not an adversary. It should be the adversary committee, advisory committee on immunization practices, whose members now, used to be normal people. Now this kook, RFK Jr., replaced them to reflect his views. This, he's a kook. This is a freak with a brain worm. We got a brain worm. I would trust the brain worm without Bobby Kennedy Jr., frankly, at this point. We need to just hear from the brain worm alone. I guess the brain worm probably wants to be liberated from that rotten brain at this point. But he recommended, let's see, he voted to end the long-standing recommendation that all newborns receive a hepatitis B shot at birth if the mother tests negative, keeping the immediate birth dose for babies of mothers who are infected or whole status is unknown. I don't know if I even read that correctly, because did that even make sense? Let's see. It doesn't matter. Multiple reports note that this overturns a 30-year policy that contributed to a 95 to 99% drop in the hepatitis B in U.S. children. So this means that they have set us up once again for failure. That's all the Republicans know how to do. They never set the American people up for success. Tell me where I'm wrong. Please, if I missed something where they set us up for success, certainly, please, let me know. But the Republicans always set us up for failure. When you're talking about the whole world, for example, renewable energy and science and cancer research and in every area, they have dragged us backwards. Like all over the world, they're moving on from renewables. And now, I'm sure you understand this. I mean, to renewables, but they're bombing Venezuela. They're killing these people on boats. Some say that they are commuters. They're fishermen. We have no proof that these are drug dealers. And even if they were, they're not carrying fentanyl. Fentanyl doesn't come by boat from Venezuela. They don't give a shit. They're not even, they don't even, hone their lies. They understand that this is how corrupt they are and how stupid maggots are. But they, wait, hold on. They don't, the reason they're bombing the boats off of the coast of Venezuela is because Venezuela has oil, has the largest reserves of oil, and compared to other countries and whatnot. And I just don't have the stat in front of me, but it has one of the largest oil reserves. So that's why they're attacking Venezuela. And think about this. They want more Americans to needlessly die for oil. Now, we could be moving towards renewables, like the rest of the world. And no American will ever have to die for this finite, archaic resource again. No, none. We could be free. Like the rest of the world, we could be energy independent. But these monsters don't want that. They have saddled us with this, with oil, dragging us backwards. And it makes no sense. Why would you do that? If you love your country, wouldn't you want to set your country up for success in the future? So you can get away from foreign entanglements. But they're in business with the Saudis, too. So they don't want to upset the Saudis. They want the Saudis to keep making that money. But we could be energy independent. We could be completely away from these barbarians, right? This Handmaid's Tale monstrosities that live there. The Mohammed bin Bone Saw. But no. And that's why they're bombing boats off of Venezuela and drumming up war while Trader Trump gets a peace prize from the FIFA president. It's such a disgrace. And what's worse is that there's a whole industry of monsters around this monster. Like the billionaires who pay the millionaires on Fox News to tell the maggots that their problems are because of Somalians, Somali immigrants, not the billionaires who pay the millionaires to tickle those racist funny bones and turn them against the solutions that actually will make America great and free. A shining city on a hill. But, so they set us up for failure. And this is yet again, and Americans needlessly die. Every time Republicans get power, Americans needlessly die. So the Republicans, doing this to us, they're setting people up in the future for liver disease, liver cancer. Jesus Christ. The hepatitis B is often silent for years and can spread through blood and household contact. Universal newborn vaccination actually provides a safety net. That targeted, it just can't be replaced. And the fact that they've weakened this crucial protection, and for no reason, but only because, there's nothing against the vaccine except that these are kooks. These are ideologues. And they're making America suck. All right, guys, this is the end of the Progressive Voices part of the show, but come on over to youtube.com/C4Channel/Tarabuster for more show. And we will win. Thank you, Charlie from APS Radio News, for all you do to keep the show going and growing. And APS Radio for classic rock and oldies and classical music. All right, become a, patron, patreon.com/TaraDevlin. Subscribe to my Substack. That'd be nice. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. And thank you, 1863 Sylvia. Hi, Tara Jr. Hold on. Come on up. You coming up? Come up. You coming up or not? Okay. You're going to meet me halfway. Here we go. Here he is. All right. Say hello. I know, you're cranky. All right, you're cranky. Hey, ow. He's a cranky bastard. This is how he talks to me all the time. He's okay. He's old. This is the producer, everybody. All right, where do we go from here? I don't even know. Let me see. Let me see. Hold on. All right. I have so many things to say and a little time to say it. Should we play this? Because the other thing I wanted to show you was, all right, Republicans they're just sick. They're sick and damaged people. This is probably a good place to talk about. Donald Trump Jr. is they were all sick and damaged. Wait, hold on a second. I gotta get the clip up. Because the other day I was watching Jimmy Kimmel, and he showed some clips of Donald Trump Jr. on his podcast. And it's been a while since we've checked out that podcast, and it's clear to me that Donald Trump Jr. is fucking high. He can't stay sober to do his podcast. Just trying to find it. Here we go. Hold on. Oops, where is it? Oh, yes, I'll find it. Don't worry. Oh, geez, wow. It's really kind of sad when I was watching this. Hold on, let's click here. Wow.
Criminal.
Hold on. I mean, I'm not just like, you can grab a still of anybody and they'll look weird, right? They do it to me, and that's not the point. But we've seen him before. When he was at the Republican National Committee. The convention. I'm just trying to fix this so you can see the whole thing. It was a rumor that he was high. Only because we saw his eyes and his face, and he was like, grinding his teeth and all, and his eyes were red, so much so that he went on Fox News to say, "Oh, it's a Democrat hoax." I don't think he used the word hoax. That wasn't in fashion at the time. But, they're lying. They're saying I'm on cocaine, right? But you tell me what you think. Let me play a couple of these clips.
Cartel turned Venezuela's state oil company into a narcotics trafficking and money laundering operation. They used Venezuelan military jets to bring drugs from Colombia, process it in Venezuela, and move it into Central America, and then onto the United States and Europe.
Wow. Listen to that again.
Oil company into a narcotics trafficking and money laundering operation.
Wow. Look at his eyes, too.
They used Venezuelan military jets to bring drugs from Colombia, process it in Venezuela, and move it into Central America, and then onto the United States and Europe. And what are Democrats doing? They're making videos telling our troops to disobey orders.
Of course, I just have to point out the fact that, of course, he's a liar. They're not making videos telling troops to disobey orders. They are telling troops to disobey. They have a legal obligation to disobey illegal orders. Illegal. They always have to leave out that qualifier, and that goes to show you how disingenuous and how evil the Republicans are, because you don't like what they did. They just recited an actual law from the Uniform Code of Military Justice. They're not saying anything that's out of the bounds of legal legitimacy. You know what I mean? This is why Republicans have nothing to offer the American people. They have to lie. They make shit up. This is a complete made-up panic. The panic should be that Trader Trump's only response should be, of course, I will not give illegal orders. Except their response is, if the president does it, it's not illegal. But anyway, I had to address that. That's not the point we're playing this. But, you know, just to show you what a bumbling, sad case he is. It's very sad, really.
And is still currently hospitalized. The career criminal.
He just can't keep it together.
Remember,
he's reading, clearly. He's reading this is what people pay money for? You see, this is what annoys me about the right wing and just the media in general. I'm out here, please become a patron, subscribe to my Substack. And, this asshole sits there loaded, reading badly off a teleprompter. And he's full of shit, of course.
Timmy Waltz, the governor, almost VP, on the Kamala Harris ticket.
This isn't really
sad.
The
fraud involves Minnesota's Medicaid Housing Stabilization Services Program.
Wow, I'm surprised you got through that one.
Our Future scandal, where funds designated for aid to the needy were siphoned off and sent back overseas to Somalia.
What?
One confidential source told investigators, and I quote, "The largest funder of Al-Shabaab is the Minnesota taxpayer." Think about that. Let that sink in. Watch.
Okay. Let's not watch.
Came forward and dropped another bombshell. They're saying Tim Waltz is, quote, 100% responsible for massive fraud in Minnesota.
For massive fraud?
Funding terrorism through welfare fraud at the expense of the Minnesota taxpayer. This is what Tim Waltz's America Last Minnesota agenda looks like.
Sure, baby. Isn't that fucked up, though? And the reason I'm playing it, too, is just that they're damaged people. And we've been talking about this. I'm not trying to make fun of him for being an addict. I'm in recovery myself. I understand, but I wouldn't give a shit, I mean, I wouldn't sponsor him. Men with the men, women with the women. But it's, he's on his own. But he would never reach out for help anyway, as much as he needs it, because that would cut him off from his daddy, who hates him. He doesn't have love. He's a very sick person. And we know that Trader Trump is a sociopath who doesn't give a shit about his children. He looks at them as an extension of himself. That's why he can't have, true companionship from, he couldn't be married, let's say, to one woman who grows old alongside him. He needs a trophy wife because that's who he is, It's, well, look at my wife, it's, my wife, who is a nude model, trophy wife number 3, that shows the world that, he's a valuable person, according to his malignant narcissism. And the same for Donald Trump Jr. And that's why he attacks. This is the irony, or the sad part, is that he and the rest of the maggots, they attack Hunter Biden. But Hunter Biden, he wishes he was Hunter Biden, Donald Trump Jr. Because Hunter Biden he was in the grips of his active addiction, and he wrote about it. He was honest about it. And, of course, Republicans use it against him. This is who they are. They don't give a shit if anybody, how people suffer and die from addiction. Don't let their murdering fishermen and off of the coast of Venezuela fool you. But when Hunter Biden was in the grips of his active addiction, his father stood by him and said, and helped him. And he was able to get the help he needed. He went to treatment and his father stood by him. And after he got clean and sober, his father said, I'm very proud of my son. I love my son. I'm proud of him for what he's overcome. And Donald Trump Jr. doesn't have the freedom to do that because his father would completely disown him. And what would he be without daddy? This moron has never had a legitimate job in his life. Just like Donald Trump, you know, he is this trust fund, this asshole who bankrupted his trust fund 6 times. And same thing with Donald Trump Jr. He's never had to go on an interview, never had to put in a resume. He's had everything handed to him. So, you know, he wishes he could get the help he needs. He wishes he could be honest and say, I need treatment. You know, because if you can't pull it together to do your hour-long Rumble podcast, that's pretty sad. And you got all the money in the world? He doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit about any single one of them. And, I mean, it's really sad when you think about it. Not that I spend a lot of time thinking about it, but that's what I do think of when I see things like that. I think, you know, he wishes he was Hunter Biden. He will never know the love of a father. And he's so desperate for it. It's so clear that he's a sick and suffering, damaged person. They're all damaged people. They need help. Like I always say, if they only would get the help that they need, just go get help. But they can't. They're too weak and small. They can't get out of their own way. He's too cowardly to ask for help because that might mean he will stand up for himself or stand on his own 2 feet. And if he went to his father and said, I'm an addict, I need help, I need to go to rehab or whatever, his father would completely turn his back on him, and he knows it. That's why he'll never get help, because his father would completely disown him. He would be like, Donald Trump Jr. who? That's the truth. And that has got to really, you know, damage a person, a child, for sure. But, you know, the damage is done. This is what happens when you're raised by a sociopath, I suppose. But look at him. He's fucked up. He couldn't even pull it together to give a speech at the RNC.
The governor almost VP on the Kamala Harris ticket. The fraud involves Minnesota's Medicaid Housing Stabilization Services Program and the infamous Feeding Our Future scandal.
Infamous, is it?
Where funds designated for aid to the needy were siphoned off.
All right, whatever. We don't need to hear it. But come on, look at him. He looks like shit. He just looks not well. That's why I say, please become a patron. Do we need this shit? And look, I mean, he's just like licking his father's ass constantly. Love me, daddy. Love me, daddy. You will never be loved by your daddy. You will never be loved. He's a very... whatever. They're all fucking sick. That's what the problem is here. Ugh. Somalis have officially... I just landed on this by accident. Have officially taken over Minneapolis. Be afraid. Be afraid. God, I hate these people legally and peacefully. Really, I really wish they would get help. And leave normal people alone. And this is the problem, you know. This is why we have to educate young people. This is why they go after the Department of Education. Why they call it government schools. They denigrate it because we need to have we need to teach young people to respect democracy, to respect their fellow American, not to turn them against their fellow American, to respect diversity, to embrace the diversity of the human tapestry, which is so triggering to these maggots. Yes, that's a good title for his show, I suppose. Triggered. God. But they're it's like all of them. Kash Patel with the jacket, right? He wouldn't get off the plane at the Charlie Kirk murder investigation. He couldn't get off the plane. He didn't have his FBI jacket on because it's all a goddamn performance. All of them are performing and thinking we will all just believe it. You know, Donald Trump Jr. performing as a happy son to a happy father. Please. And we can all see right through him. They're all very damaged. Like Kristi Noem performing, putting on all her cosplay costumes. Sociopaths, sick people. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. performing as the Health and Human Services Secretary, killing more people, killing more Americans. All right, let's get back to that. Actually, let me show you or tell you about. Speaking of the kooks, in the performance of Health and Human Services Secretary, so-called Kennedy. God, what a disgrace. What a fucking disgrace. So the panel that just undid the hepatitis B birth dose recommendation is a newly picked lineup of freaks and curiosities, picked by the chief freak brainworm himself. And they are all worse than the next. Each one is worse than the next. And they have a long history. That's why they were picked. Long history of vaccine skepticism. And no relevant clinical training. That's the other thing. They're just kooks. They just have opinions with nothing to back it up. Right? Like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He's not a doctor. Some of these people are doctors, but they don't have clinical training in vaccines. They just have their opinion. They have feelings. They have gut feelings. Dr. Kirk how do you pronounce this? Milhone is the new chair of this committee, which is the ACIP. And what does that stand for? We just read it. Can't find whatever. He is a cardiologist and evangelical pastor who, during the worldwide deadly pandemic, he publicly opposed COVID vaccine mandates and questioned mainstream public health responses, of course. Dr. Robert Malone is the ACIP vice chair. He's a physician who has repeatedly cast doubt on COVID vaccines. That's the qualifier. He's exaggerated his personal role in the mRNA vaccine development. I mean, he's a liar. And that's what they do. You know, he probably did something on the periphery, and he's exaggerated it because it'll give him more legitimacy or validity to kill more Americans. So, you know, they lie. And that's the other thing, they have no, that's what the hallmark of, or one of the markings of someone who's a kook, is that they, they don't know their limitations. They're sick. They think they can, they just don't. It's like like kooks who jump out the window thinking they're Superman. You know, I can fly, wee, and you can't fly. You're just a kook. Same thing here. No, you're really not qualified to sit and make judgment on vaccine policy in the United States. You're certainly not qualified to roll back successful policy, you effing kook. But here we are. This guy, Robert Malone, is a favorite in the anti-vax circles. So that's all Robert F. Kennedy Jr. needed to hear. And then we have those are the doctors on the panel. Then there's Retsef Levi. He's a mathematician, not a medical doctor. He's campaigned to halt the COVID vaccine based on disputed safety claims. No, you're not coming up now, Junior. I don't know if you can hear him. He's meowing. He wants to jump up, but he's very cranky, and I don't want to deal with it. Go lay down. Go lay down. Lay down, producer. Go lay down. He doesn't listen. Not that me saying go lay down is going to mean anything. So let's see. During the Hepatitis B meeting, he argued against the birth dose and claimed that vaccines have never been appropriately tested. Never. Never been. I mean, you want to think about vaccine testing. There's really no vaccine that's been tested more than the COVID-19 vaccine all over the world. You know, you want to talk billions and billions, right, of doses. Jesus Christ. Several other Kennedy appointees lack experience in pediatrics, infectious disease, vaccine epidemiology, and reports describe the meetings as chaotic. Of course, Republicans have brought screaming matches into the halls of power, fist fights. This is it's not normal, but it's very normal for maggots who are not normal. So we should normalize this because this is not normal. So reports describe the meetings as chaotic, with members confused about basic evidence and processes while still voting to dismantle the 30-year plus universal recommendation that experts say has prevented thousands of deaths. What they just voted for is a new ACIP. This panel voted to remove the standing recommendation. Yes, hepatitis B at birth. Oh, God. Hepatitis B and liver disease specialists and former ACIP members and major medical organizations warn that this change will inevitably miss at-risk infants and lead to more lifelong infections and liver cancer. Oh, God. And reverse decades of progress against preventable cause of death in the United States. Well, that's what Republicans do. They are the agents of chaos and the angels of death. Prove me wrong. They really are. I'm really at my wit's end dealing with these people. Every time we turn around, it's like every time a freaking notification comes on my phone, I'm like, Jesus Christ, what now? But here's the thing. This is why I have to remind everybody, we're in this boat because of propaganda. That's why you guys supporting the show and supporting other shows like my show and the Political Voices Network and all that, I'm not kidding, is vital to how we're going to win. We need to get the what do you call it? We got to get the message out there. We have to get the message back. And we also have to shame the Democrats. And, the Republicans are shameless, but we have to counter them. Because when I'm watching these right-wing shows, that are all over YouTube and whatnot. And one thing they all have in common is that they lie constantly. And they repeat the lie over and over and over. And it doesn't matter. You know, and they believe. That's the other thing. Notice even with this, with the baboon bombing the boats and murdering people, they just believe that this is a drug dealer and they should be murdered out of hand. And it does remind me of, who was that? It was that guy from the Philippines, Duterte, that Trader Trump loved so much in the first maladministration, how he had really cleaned up the drug dealers. So that's all you got to do, is say they're drug dealers, and murder, I guess, is just all good to the maggots. Extrajudicial murder. These are the same people that were afraid of government overreach, right? Government this, I'm from the government, and that's the most terrifying words. There's nothing more terrifying than a government that can just murder you on the excuse that you're a drug dealer. It sounds, don't you? I mean, that is really right out of any fascist nightmare. And you would think that people who are so hyper vigilant about government overreach would not take kindly to extrajudicial murder, extrajudicial anything. How about pulling people off of streets, men in masks with no warrants, no identification, kidnapping people? And they're cool with it. So, you know, this is why educating young people without apology is so vital to having a functioning democracy. And this is why Republicans don't want it. They attack it. Because you have to tell young people, you know, how precious, how fragile democracies are. It's true. Commander Bond says, Trump can do whatever he wants. Just think, good fellas. When they're beating the guy up, Janice can do whatever she wants. Yep. That's what it is. But that's why the mainstream media, the legacy media, whatever, is useless. And they brought us to this point. Because they could not get away with it without propaganda. Because the maggots on their social media channels and whatnot, they're not coming up with the shit on their own. They're hearing it from the mouthpieces, the propaganda mouthpieces, and they're just spreading it. Of course, we also have and as we know now, a large majority of the maggot influencers and the maggot movement was spread by right out of the bowels of the Kremlin. So that's not just speculation anymore. But we always knew that. Yeah, it all goes back to Russia with this, with these monsters. And Trader Trump he is really the worst thing that's happened to this country. He's a traitor, clearly. He is doing for Putin what he could never, ever have imagined. You know, I mean, he must really feel like Christmas has come every morning in regard to destroying the United States. And it's a disgrace, because I was also watching some news reports from England about what's going on in the United States, because I like to see what other people are saying, what other countries are saying. And they're not pulling any punches. This is a war crime, what they're talking about, what's happening off the coast of Venezuela. What he's saying about the Somalians, this is fascist rhetoric. They're saying it right out there. It's not like what we have to deal with here. You might hear that on some of the MSNBC or the MS Now commentators or others, but you won't hear it on mainstream media reports. That's not the case in England. They're like, this is echoes of Nazi Germany, the kind of language that this so-called president is using. And for the life of me, I don't understand why the corporate media in this country doesn't want to put that in context. Why wouldn't you? You have a duty. And the other thing is, I think we were talking about this on the last show too, but when he goes off on, on the reporters, how you're stupid and you're the worst and all this shit. When do you all walk out? What is the point of a White House press corps at this point? Walk the fuck out, frankly. Walk out. Enough is enough. There's no reason to be there. You do more good. You'll get more answers outside of the White House press corps. You're there, to be a stenographer for a liar and take abuse, to ask questions to this unfit con man so he can go, you're stupid, you're fake news, or you could never pass a cognitive test? Woman, camera, TV? Ridiculous. You're dumb, you're the worst. The fuck? And when does, if you're going to stay there, when do you just say to this baboon, how dare you? And the rest of the White House press corps, they should all turn their back on him. Or at least say, that's unbecoming. I don't understand how you think you could talk to people like that, but you work for us, you disgusting disgrace to human DNA. Who do you think you are, talking to the members of the only profession enshrined in the Constitution as being vital, as being necessary for a functioning democracy, and you're going to stand here and say, you're stupid, you're fake news, shut up, piggy? What the hell? Stand up to this freak. And this is a problem. How dare he? We don't want a king. No kings. We fought a revolution. No effing kings. Jesus. Wow. Gary Johnson on the chat says, my wife is Chilean. Her family talks about 1972 like this. That's scary. Wow. Yeah, it will be in the history books. Yep. But I guess, then I'm thinking, they're all working for the corporate media. They're in these corporate media jobs, and their bosses want them there because, they don't, and so they don't have the power to say anything like that. They got to sit there, and it's just not acceptable. That's why all of the legitimate news outlets should pull their reporters off that plane and out of that press corps. There's no point to it. It's just, it gives the baboon another stage for his tirades, and it should just be good night. Woodward and Bernstein didn't win a Pulitzer Prize in the White House press corps. They were meeting their sources in garages in the middle of the night and things like that. So what do you expect? Just gonna sit there and lie? They're gonna lie to your face. They're gonna call you names. Oh Lordy, there's only a minute left. Jesus Lordy. There's so many other things to talk about, but we will have a show on Tuesday, so don't forget to set your alarms and like and subscribe and all that jazz. But the Tuesday show is on the Political Voices Network. I know it's confusing. It is what it is. But Jim is the moderator, so you'll be among friends. And on the Political Voices Substack, please, if you can, I know you can. I want you to subscribe to my Substack, okay? I need you to do it. I need you. I'm putting the link in there. And because I got to get those numbers up. I got to get the numbers up. You got to get the numbers up. All right. Thank you, Charlie from APS Radio News. You're the best, really. Thank you so much, Charlie, for all you do to keep the show going and growing, all your donations to the show and to the community cats. And what else? Thank you, Charlie, really. And you guys, listen to APS Radio. Okay? Do us a favor. We stick together, we win. So that's how we do. And I want you guys, I have to ask you to do a favor. Do me a solid and go over to the Tarabuster iTunes. If you listen to the show as a podcast and haven't given it a good review on iTunes, I'm asking you, I'm begging you to do it. Okay? Because maybe I'll put it in. I'm trying to find it. I told you I got that weird review. And I want to push it lower. Okay? I don't want to go off on it now. Because that'll go... I just don't have the energy for a tangent. But... Oh, thank you. T. Rose. Thank you for your super chat. And thank you... Did I say thank you, 1863 Sylvia? Yes, for your super chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Right, Errol Thomas asked, does APS Radio also have heavy metal hard rock? That would be good. I don't know. I don't think so. Classic rock and oldies, but that would be a good channel to have. Yeah. Here's the Tarabuster podcast link. And I've been trying to update that goddamn fucking podcast, what do you call it? Graphic, and it won't update. It just it's very irritating. I have a better version of that picture, but it bothers me that it won't update. I keep reaching out to customer or whatever, service, help and all that. All right, I'm tired. I'm stuffed up, tired. My feet hurt, my corns hurt, my sciatica hurts. And yeah, all right. So Tuesday, we will have a show. If all goes well, I'm gonna have a guest, but it's not JoJo from Jers yet. That's a whole other story. But she'll be on. She will be on eventually. And where it will be Beowulf from Good News for Progressives. He's got a show on the Political Voices Network, all about good news that progressives want to hear, and I think we could use that. And I'd like to talk to him about how he finds it, how he finds the topics. Jeez. All right, my friends. Listen. Thank you so much for hanging out. My name is Tara Devlin. Become a patron, patreon.com/Tara Devlin. Subscribe to my Substack. Please. Tell your friends. Everything. All that. I don't know. We will win. We will win. Because we're on the right side of history. We're on the right side of decency, dignity, democracy, humanity. We stick together. We win. My name is Tara Devlin. I will see you on Tuesday. Okay? And I want to thank Jim and Redfoot for thank you so much for being the moderators in the chat. And I will see you. No, did I say Monday or Tuesday? I'll see you Tuesday. See you soon.